Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie. If you are new here, I do all kinds of lifestyle vlogs, motherhood videos, some personal finance videos, but today's post video show, it's not a show, it's going to be kind of a recap of my first trimester. What's funny is during first trimester, I tried to take a couple of clips to like show you real time what was going on. Honestly, it just got to the point where I was like so sick that it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna recap instead, tell you guys about my first trimester. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit about what was different with my first pregnancy versus my second pregnancy. And then I'm also gonna tell you a couple of things that like got me through first trimester, which most of it is just survival, but there were a couple of things that helped this time. Let's talk about it. Let's not talk about the fact that my closet bar clothes hanger thingy broke. So literally all of my clothes are all over my bed and my floor, but you can't see that, so you don't know that. Why did I say that? I don't know. So let's talk about this. I'm gonna pull out my note so that we can get going, and I'll tell you about first trimester. Okay, so if you haven't seen my finding out I'm pregnant and telling my husband video, I'll make sure that I'll link that here and in the description or in the comments or something for you guys to watch, because you can see that I was genuinely shocked because I was not prepared to be pregnant. In fact, to the point where one of my most popular videos on my channel in general of all time is my 2-week wait video from Ivy's pregnancy, because I was just like tracking all those symptoms and I was sure I was pregnant with her. This pregnancy, I did not track anything because I did not think I was pregnant. Analytics wise, it would be great for me to do another video like that with second pregnancy. I have no idea. During the 2-week wait, I was sure that I was not pregnant because I didn't have a ton of symptoms. They weren't similar to Ivy. I was feeling very tired, but I still didn't feel as tired as I did with Ivy. There were some differences in Ivy's pregnancy, which was my pregnancy, my daughter. I did have a miscarriage. It was actually my first pregnancy, but so with Ivy's pregnancy, I'll kind of throughout tell you the differences, similarities, things like that. If you can hear a lawnmower in the background, I'm hoping you can't. They're like multiple houses down, but if you can, I'm sorry, but I literally have one day to film stuff. Starting with week 4, because that is the week that I found out that I was pregnant. The only thing that I really noticed was bloating, especially in my higher stomach. I have a stomach that kind of sticks out, A, because I gained a lot of weight before I was pregnant with my daughter, but B, because in my pregnancy with Ivy, I had a C-section, so my stomach just lays a little bit differently, and then I also had diastasis recti, is that how you say it? My like muscles never really went back. They're a little bit stronger than they used to be, but not great. My stomach just kind of sticks out, and that's just the way that life is right now. I just noticed that it was even more in the top, especially part of my stomach, and I will say that has continued. I'm saying that right now because my stomach is still bloated, and I feel like my stomach looks like a B right now, where like I feel like the baby is still low and then my upper stomach is just bloated all the time, which is fun. One other thing, like I said, I was tired, but I wasn't that tired. Like with Ivy, I literally started falling asleep and taking naps. I'm not a napper. I was just tired. I had just started taking anxiety medication like a few weeks prior. I was also dealing with some like health stuff. We found mold in our house, so things like that. I have a toddler who does not sleep through the night most nights. It wasn't abnormal for me to be tired. I didn't feel any more tired than normal, but I was tired. And then the only other thing I said was I had a couple of headaches, which was a little bit abnormal, but it wasn't that abnormal, especially going into what I thought was my period. I felt like I was having period symptoms more than pregnancy symptoms for me. I know that they're very similar, but because I've been pregnant before, I know a little bit of how they're different. Like for example, I get like back aches with my period, not with pregnancy, and I had backache. And then with Ivy's pregnancy, my boobs hurt so bad like right away, and mine didn't start hurting for a few weeks. So I really didn't think I was pregnant, which you can watch that video and you'll understand. So we'll move on to week 5. Oops, here's a thing that's not fair, but also ended up being fair, but in the beginning didn't seem fair. 5.5 weeks pregnant, literally a week after I found out I was pregnant, I was so sick. I got so sick so early. I was like, okay, you guys know my first pregnancy, fairly traumatic, not only the first trimester, but my birth. I was worried going into this knowing that I was gonna be sick. But that was a whole reason that we moved back to Illinois, was so that we would be around family. But we didn't want to tell people right away. And I was like, you know what? With Ivy, I didn't start getting sick until 7.5 weeks. So I've got like 3 weeks here to like be okay, right? No, 5.5 weeks. I was down for the count. It was not a good time. I was super nauseous already. Cramps, backache, fatigue, metallic taste in my mouth, which has not gone away. Food just started tasting off. I wasn't sick from it yet, but I just was like, I don't love this. Anxiety. I was like researching my little heart away. Diarrhea, major stomach aches, and some cold sweats. I did start taking naps. I did have really good Indian food that week, but I have not been able to eat Indian food since that week, which sucks because I love Indian food, but I do not. Chips and salsa was gross to me. Ben and I went to a restaurant that I love. I am a chips and salsa girl. I could eat that as a meal. I have eaten that as a meal. That's what I used to live off of when I lived in Milwaukee and I had zero money. I literally ate SpaghettiOs and I had a whole freaking jar of salsa other nights, okay? The same thing happened in Ivy's pregnancy where chips and salsa started tasting meh to me and I was like, F-U-C-K, you know? This is not a great time for me. I noticed that I started getting a little bit nauseous around like 11 every day. By the end of week 5, I literally had a full-on like panic attack meltdown because I was already feeling so nauseous and starting to like dry heave and like feel really sick and like everything just felt terrible and I was terrified. I was like, how is this starting so early? With Ivy, I was sick from 7.5 weeks to like 16 weeks, I think. And I was like, I cannot do this for that long. I was terrified. I had a full-on meltdown. It was not a great time. I was very, very, very worried. So we'll move into week 6. Extremely, extremely nauseous. Everything made me nauseous. Basically from about 11 a.m. on, I was extremely nauseous. The thought of food, the smell of food, the sight of food, feeding my daughter. Imagine not being able to look at food and you have to feed a toddler like multiple meals a day. Not a good time. Like not a good time. I would like give her something and like run to the bathroom and like dry heave. Not good. I hated everything. I will say one thing that we knew from my last pregnancy is that when I get to that point, you have to force me to eat, because if I don't eat, that's when I would start puking. Ben was like forcing me to eat things like falafel, rice, plain tacos. I would literally have like a taco shell with like refried beans. I think I did like tomatoes and that was like it. Kimbap was like something else. And basically he would just try to feed me every couple of hours. I'm very lucky that my husband works from home, so he was able to like do that for me, but it was terrible. Terrible, not a great time. Now, I will say one thing that I found out through my first trimester, now that I'm done, that is different is I puked once in week 6. That was the only time I actually puked. With Ivy, I puked all the time. Like, and by the way, I'm not gonna give a TMI warning because if you're watching this video, I'm gonna be talking about bodily fluids because that's what happens in pregnancy. I puked all the time with Ivy. Like all the time. And I only puked once with this pregnancy. Now the nausea, I would say, was worse. Like the feeling of being nauseous, I wanted to puke. Like I wish that I could have, because I feel like it would have helped. Dry heaved all the time though. Like I was constantly at the toilet thinking I was going to puke, but nothing was coming out, which honestly hurts. It hurts to be having these like extreme, like you're trying to go to puke, but it's not coming out. Like it was just super painful. I also got a cold this week, which I just think is unfair. And this also happened with Ivy's pregnancy. I don't think that you should be allowed to get sick. I got a cold with Ivy. I got the stomach flu twice with Ivy, and I got COVID. Okay, pregnancy gods, not okay. I did get a cold with this pregnancy, and it did not go away for like, I felt like a month and a half. It's gone now, but it's, yeah, it was just annoying to also be like stuffed up. I couldn't breathe, and that just all affected everything. I wasn't sleeping well, so that would make everything worse. I did say that I got a couple of twinges of cramps. My teeth really hurt and like my gums felt very sore. And that was when I started not being able to wear any bands, no bras, no tight like leggings, nothing. That's when I bought these like dresses that I'm still wearing from Old Navy that have like zero support, and I was just like, I'll just go in, you know, which I think I talk about, yeah, in the next week, what started happening there, which made it a little bit embarrassing not to be wearing a bra. I literally could not wear a bra. It would make me even more nauseous to have a band there. I'm just wondering why everybody has to mow their lawn when I'm trying to get stuff done. You know, don't they know that the world revolves around me? I'm just kidding, but I'm annoyed. Week 7, extremely nauseous, weird taste in my mouth, This is when my boobs started hurting, and I swear to God, they grew a cup size in like 2 days. They're gigantic. They still are. None of my bras that I did have fit. Nothing under a size large I can even get on. I don't even know. I bought like a bunch of extra large bras, which are over here and will be a different video. I don't even know if those will fit, honestly. Like, I feel like my ribs immediately expanded. My boobs got bigger. Just terrible. Super painful. They're still a little sore. Like, Ivy has a tendency to go like right for them when she's coming for me, and and it hurts. So that's been fun to deal with. A lot of stomach issues. My stomach issues kind of restarted, which I haven't been having since I cut out eggs, but I don't know, everything started being bad again. I will say I stopped being careful about gluten and dairy, which probably didn't help, but I, again, was just trying to get in literally any food I could. So if SpaghettiOs sounded good to me, that's what I had. If McDonald's, and by sounded good, I mean sounded like I wasn't going to die if I saw it or tasted it. Sounds dramatic, but it's very true. Then I would get it. I did not care. This was also when our budget started going crazy. If you watched my budget with me for July, peace out to our food out budget. I spent so much money on food, but anyway, and not even because I liked it, but because I was just trying to get food into my body, you know? I did start having a couple of panic attacks in week 7 as well, because I think I said that I had like a full meltdown in week 5 because I was sick, but by week 7 I was like, I've already been sick for 2 weeks. I cannot imagine doing this for like 9 more weeks. Maybe not 9 weeks, but you know what I mean? I was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. What did I do? This is terrible. And it was just really bad. I had to take a nap every day. Thankfully, my toddler naps most days. So I usually napped while she napped, and that kind of continued. So I'll also say within sometime between week 6 and week 7, we told Ben's family that I was pregnant. We were gonna try to wait. Ben just felt more comfortable waiting to tell people until we were a little bit further along, since I've had a miscarriage before. But I honestly was so sick that I needed more help. I'm gonna have to finish this one, people. Stop mowing their lawn. So moving back to where I was, I think I was talking about the fact that we told Ben's family fairly early. So basically the biggest reason that we moved back to Illinois was so that if I did, or when I did get pregnant again, we would have help, because I was so sick in my first trimester with Ivy that I knew there was no way that I could like work, have Ivy, be a toddler mom, and then also deal with that. And like, Ben could not take care of us. He had to work. I needed to tell them so that we could involve them and have them help us a little bit more. So very grateful for that. Moving on to week 8, again, nausea, boobs hurt, headaches started. I started having my first migraine. I will say I've continued to have a lot of headaches, and they have not gone away. I'm 15 weeks now, and I'm really hoping they go away soon. The dry heaving continued, being literally everything sounding disgusting to me, still needing to nap every day. One of the only things that sounded good to me, and when I ate it actually tasted good, was acai bowls. So I started getting them every Friday at the farmer's market. At least I was eating fruit, because as you're gonna see fairly soon, that was probably the only time I was eating fruit or a vegetable for a very long amount of time. Moving on to week 10, this is when things stopped moving. So I got very constipated. I had some issues with that and like stomach issues in my first pregnancy. So I started taking this like senna tea, and I did take senna a couple of times to like help things go. You can also take like Colace. I think some people take Miralax. I don't think Miralax helped at all for me, so I needed something that was a little bit stronger. Don't take it often, because it'll do the opposite to you, but I did start taking it a little bit more. Moving on to week 9. So in the end of week 8, I went and saw my doctor for my 8-week checkup. And at that doctor appointment, she told me to try taking Unisom. She also said that I could, you know, take B6 or B12 or whatever the B is with it, but I had those in my lozenges that I was taking for the nausea. I didn't take that. I just took Unisom. I was still having trouble sleeping. I hoped that the Unisom would help with that. And I did start getting what I would consider first trimester food cravings for me, which just meant I think I could eat this. I need to eat it right now. So that is when I started eating very specific things and only wanting cold or crappy food for the most part. That's when McDonald's, just like, I was having that every day. I was having McGriddles with no egg every day, and Coke restarted having Coca-Cola a lot, but I also just really liked my food cold. So I loved leftovers, which I normally don't, but I had things like a cold leftover burger from someplace, a cold Potbelly sandwich, grapes, soda, anything that was like really cold I really liked, and that was the only way I could get even a little bit of water down. The whole thing I'm not talking about in here is that I barely drank any water the whole time, which is not great for you. I also could not look, think, or smell coffee. I just started to be able to handle coffee like in the last week, which I probably shouldn't have reintroduced because it was kind of nice not to be dependent on coffee. Just a lot of cold food, a lot of crappy food, anything that I could like get in. And a lot of times those like heavier meals, something from McDonald's or a hamburger from someplace or a Potbelly sandwich or something like that, because it was like higher calorie and like denser than a lot of the food I was eating, like, you know, like falafel or like chickpeas, it like sat in my stomach longer. So I feel like that helped with the nausea a little bit. I will also say, which I didn't mention and I probably should have, I had been eating entirely plant-based before I got pregnant, and that immediately went away. As soon as I started getting sick, I had to incorporate meat because I already couldn't eat eggs, and I really hated all food, and eggs is in like literally everything. So I was already cutting a lot of stuff out, and the only thing that kind of sounded good to me was like chicken in a sandwich or like a burger, and I wasn't gonna deprive myself of that. So I did and am still eating meat, which is the same thing that happened with my pregnancy with Ivy. I was eating plant-based before that, and as soon as I got pregnant, I started eating meat. And that's just how it was for me. This is when my weird dreams started and my headaches continued. Okay, week 11, I said that my nausea was only occasional. It still happened, but it was nowhere near as much as it was. So that's when I started eating a lot. I like wanted to eat way more food because I wasn't nauseous 100% of the time. A couple of the things that I was like super into was chili from Potbelly, but also just chili in general. I think I've made chili like 3 times and it's hot out, so I'm not really sure why, but chili from Potbelly I was having like twice a week. Coke, having Coca-Cola, that's still something that I crave now. I had one today. And Qdoba. I'm still kind of craving Qdoba. Every time I talk about it, I want to eat more Qdoba, and I need to remind myself that I cannot have it every day, you know? I also I was bloated, constipated, lots of bad headache. I feel like the nausea went down, but my migraines and headaches went up, and I started getting a little bit of anxiety about my next appointment. Because my week 8 appointment went well, that was great, but week 12 is just, you know, still first trimester. Things can happen throughout all of pregnancy. Obviously, I still have some anxiety. I'm 15 weeks now. I feel like getting out of the first trimester just feels better in general. So I think I was nervous going into my week 12 appointment because I just wasn't sure like what was going to happen. And of course, some annoying stuff happened, but everything was fine with the pregnancy. Moving on to week 12, I said feeling better nausea-wise. My sleep is really off. My dreams are crazy weird. Headaches and backaches, especially upper back. So I would say that this continues. I do still sometimes get nauseous if I don't eat enough, or if I wait a while to eat. I have to eat pretty regularly. So I eat in the morning, and then I eat around 11 when Ivy needs to eat. I at least eat a snack. Sometimes I eat my actual lunch, like today I did, and then about 3 or 4 hours after that, which is usually when Ivy has her snack, I will have a snack. And then I've been eating dinner fairly early, and then sometimes I still will have like a snack or a treat after that. It just depends. I've been waking up hungry in the middle of the night as well, which is interesting to me. Definitely was not a thing with Ivy. So that's interesting. I've just been hungrier, but I've just been like more scheduled with what I'm eating. I don't feel like I'm eating that much more food. I just feel like I'm eating smaller amounts more times a day, if that makes sense. Again, the biggest culprit, or the worst thing that I'm eating is the Cokes. I'm eating tons of sugar and tons of calories that like aren't helping anything. So I really do need to chill on that, but it's just been a hard thing to give up. There's something about the bubbles, something about them. So those were kind of the weeks that I went through. If you're still here, I'm going to talk about a few things that got me through first trimester, mostly because I don't feel like making a second video. A few things that got me through first trimester. Eating before I got hungry. I still think that that is helpful for me. I don't get as nauseous as I used to, but I will still get a little bit nauseous. So for me, eating before I get hungry is huge, even if it's just like a small snack or something. Forcing myself to eat when I didn't want to, also huge. I didn't start doing that until the end of first trimester with Ivy and noticed that it made me feel better, and I was like, why didn't I do this the whole time? So we were prepared this time. Like, Ben was basically force feeding me. Now I will say the foods that he was force feeding me, I can't even handle the smell of right now, like falafel, kimbap, there's a couple of like buttered noodles, any of that kind of stuff. I don't want anywhere near me. It was helpful during that time, but now I probably won't be able to eat it the rest of pregnancy. Napping when Ivy napped, which I talked about before. I'm very lucky that I have a very flexible schedule. I get help. So on the days that I worked, I didn't necessarily nap. So I tried to nap at least part of the time when Ivy napped. Now I will say the one thing that sucked with that is naps triggered my migraines. Again, pregnancy gods, what in the heck? So that kind of sucked because a lot of times I would get a headache then for the rest of the day. But I needed to nap because I was so exhausted, so it was just really difficult. Morning sickness lozenges, I don't remember, I think it's the Pink Stork brand. I'll put a picture up here and I'll link it down below on my Amazon links. I loved these with Ivy. I couldn't do like the pregnancy pops, like the super sweet ones. I also did Jolly Ranchers in my first pregnancy, and now I never want to see a Jolly Rancher again. So these are like sweet enough, but not too sweet, because I still don't like super sweet. It like leaves my mouth. Another thing is eating what I could and like not being mad at myself about it. So having Coke, having McDonald's, having Potbelly often. Potbelly at least was like healthier, but like I just let myself do that, and we were financially fine enough to do that and to have like kind of a crazy month of eating out. I'm still eating out more than normal, but it has like pulled back a little bit. Another thing, anxiety medication. So I did start my anxiety medication before. I will link a video about my anxiety if you're interested. Anxiety medication has been really helpful for me. I think I would have struggled with many more panic attacks and probably re-triggering of some of my OCD stuff had I not been on anxiety medications. I don't think it like helped everything, but I do think that it would have been a much worse first trimester without anxiety medication mentally. The other thing that I kind of mentioned before and then stopped myself was I lowered the amount of work that I was doing. So I only told my client that I could write like 2 blogs a week, and I was like barely doing that. And I asked her for like simple blogs, ones that I didn't have to think about, or think about very much at least I should say, and then asking for more help, even if it meant when they came over to help, I wasn't being productive in the sense of like, maybe I was napping, or maybe I was cleaning, or maybe I was just sitting in front of the TV. And I had to come to terms with the fact that that was productive because I was building a baby and I felt like shit, you know? Smooth Moves tea, which I mentioned, it's like got senna in it. That was really helpful for me. I still take it, I will say. It isn't necessarily smooth if you take too much of it. So I really only take this like once every other day, once every couple of days. If I'm feeling normal, then I won't take it because it does the opposite of what you want it for. It can be really strong. You need to be careful with it. And then I have this massager thing. Again, I'll put a picture and like link it in my Amazon if I can find it. But I have this massager thing that is really helpful, along with like a heating pad for my headaches, because a lot of times my headaches trigger neck and back pain. And again, the naps were triggering neck and back pain, which would then trigger a headache. So it was just a fun time, but that was really helpful. My friend actually bought that for me in my first pregnancy because I had a lot of migraines in that pregnancy as well. So I've been pulling that baby out during this one for sure. And then the last thing, I actually have it next to me, is this cream. I did use Icy Hot in my last pregnancy because I needed to. I can take my migraine pills, but they're so strong that I really don't feel comfortable taking them very often. But if I need to, I can, according to my doctors. This has been really helpful. My acupuncturist actually gave this to me. Well, she gave me one and then I had to pay for the second one. That's been really helpful. I still put it on almost every night. It smells good and it feels good on my back and on my shoulders, and it helps with everything. The last thing that I want to say is Unisom. I did not take that in my first pregnancy because they didn't really tell me about it until almost the end of my first trimester, or past the end of my first trimester. So I never tried it because I really didn't think it would help, and honestly it did help. So if you've never tried it or you're super sick in it, I don't know, maybe just try it. What is the worst that could happen? I took like half a pill. I still occasionally take it. It helped a lot with my nausea, and it does not help everyone. And to those of you that it does not help, and it probably would not have helped during my first pregnancy, I am so sorry. If you haven't tried it, maybe just try it and see how it makes you feel, because it was worth it to me. But those are the few things that really helped me out in first trimester. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm really hoping it didn't shake the whole time because my camera keeps shaking. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. We're officially out of first trimester.